Okay, welcome to the final Taco prototype demo for this work cycle. This is Aaron Collier, developer and tech lead. We have Justin Coyne, developer, Christina Harlow, data ops engineer, Aaron Fahey, DevOps engineer, Hannah Frost, our product owner, and Vivian, our DLSS direct liaison. We've gone through a few of these before, but we've added a couple of very critical features to what we've shown. Notice that the first thing we're gonna do is make sure everything is running, and notice that the site is live at tacodemo.sewell.stanford.edu. This is running in an AWS deployment cluster. So we'll just ensure that things are running and we get an OK status. And now we want to create an object. We're going to deposit a very generic work here, and we can see that just a simple JSON object structure here, and we'll pay attention to the label so that we can update that. And then we'll create that object. And then given that ID, notice we get a Druid back. So we are generating Druids in our deployed identifier service in the AWS cluster. Then let's retrieve that object and use the Druid that was just generated. And we notice this is the same information. There's the label that we were looking for. Notice we tag the external identifier as the Druid that is created, and we have an internal identifier that we will show the reasoning behind in just a second for versioning. And let's clear the screen so it's a little easier to read. And so we've checked that object out. Let's actually need to look at it again. So let's take a quick look at that object. We need to take the Druid that we generated, and in order to update this record properly, we need to validate against the record. So we're going to use an update request. And the first thing we need to make sure and do is set the Druid for this object and its identifier properly. But we also need to grab the taco identifier that was generated. Come here. Okay. So let me grab the taco identifier from this. And where are you on the screen? There you are. So we will grab that identifier, and we need to validate against that when we do this update. So in our update, we are going to set you, and you are here. And let's find what we want to update. We're going to update this label. We'll say updated label. So we can see that change take effect. Grab the update request here. And we want to use the Druid that we just created. So that is our identifier here. And because we got our ID back, that shows a good response. So we're going to take a look at that object again, and notice we have updated the label. So we've seen this before, but the next thing we want to show related to this is if we change the version number here in our update, which is right here. If we just increase this version number, so for some reason we want to change this to updated version label, and we want to actually maintain the history of this object, we're going to do another update. And when I get this object, now we have the updated version label. Our version number has been increased, And the thing to notice, to pay attention to here, is that our taco identifier is now different. So we've got BF8411 6B, and it was originally 7BDAA31. Now, this was the one that was originally generated, and we've increased the version number. So we're actually maintaining the history. So if we want to get that prior version, we'll say version equals 1 to get the original version of that. And notice that there is that taco identifier that was in the first file. So we're maintaining the history throughout this object's life cycle as we update it and move through that way. So the next thing we want to do, so we've gone through versions and retrieved both of those versions. Now we're going to create a file set and attach it to our first work. So one of the things we need to do is take the Druid that we generated. So we want to use this Druid, and in the file set we're going to generate, we need to make sure we structurally tell the files that it's contained by that object that we just created. Otherwise it won't validate properly. So we're going to create the file set by our normal, oops, that's uploading a file. We're going to create that file set just by posting that JSON payload to our normal resource endpoint. And we get, this time we get a UUID back, because the ID used for a file set will not need to be a Druid. A file set individually would not need to be made accessible outside of the system, so no reason to assign it to a Druid. But we do need this ID, because the next thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to attach a binary file to that object, to that file set, by uploading a file. Notice we've got a test PDF here, and we're going to upload that to the file path for that file set. So we need to use the ID that was just generated. And notice we've got our route is part of the resource / file that will upload a file to that object. We get another ID back. And if we curl on that new ID to retrieve, this path is going to give us the metadata for that file. And we need to use the ID that we just generated. So we can retrieve the file specific metadata that was generated. And you'll see that we've got an S3 file location. We have an external identifier. We have the file set that it was contained by. Notice that that's the ID that was originally generated. It is a type file. We've got the MIME type and the file name, or it didn't go in as a test object, but that's okay. So now we are going to now remove that file by deleting it. And let me make sure I have the proper ID. Oh, let me get you guys out of the way. So once we take that ID and we can run our delete on this object, that file is now gone, and it will give us a 404. That file is gone.